Hello everyone, this is General Hand Grenade. Welcome to my war room in Prince George, British Columbia. This is my final video in the Operation Crimson Tide. Yeah, and it's been an interesting game. For those of you who watched it, we all thank you for tuning in and checking it out. Even though it's only January of 1943, the game has been ended because the Allies and the Comintern have had a little chat, I guess. I don't know, I wasn't a part of it, obviously, because I'm in the Axis. But anyway, they've decided that there's no point in continuing, and they have surrendered. So I can see why. Like after the Germans' last turn last night, that's the gap of victory and loss was only going to widen. You know, with Russia being effectively taken out of the game for the most part, the Axis can just concentrate on the Allies now, and because of that, it was like it was inevitable, right? And you know, like we've all got things to do. This game has gone on over 2 months now. I think, what is it, 9 or 10 weeks we've been playing, and you know, like we've got things to do. We've got other things to do, all of us. And so this is a good time to end it anyway for our personal lives. And so but first, you know, I want to thank the other players in the game, my opponents, Sky Marshal and War Heroes. They put up a good fight, and they hung in there for a long time, actually. Like, the game has been, you know, pretty much decided for a while now, right? But they hung in there, and they gave it their best shot, and you know, they never gave up, and they just kept going, and you know, hats off to them. I think all of us that played this game learned a little bit, as we always do. Like, I learn stuff every game I play, but I think they learned a lot. I always learn more when I lose, and so I'm just guessing that they learned an awful lot with this game not going in their favor. War Heroes is a new player. I'm not sure if this was his first game, or if not, then it was definitely one of his first games. And so I'm sure he learned an awful lot. And I'm sure next game he'll be much better, because let's face it, when you sit down and you read the rule book, that's a pretty hefty rule book, right? And until you actually put the pieces down on the map and start playing it, and playing with good players that know how to interpret the rules through experience that they've had, you know, then things in the rule book start to make sense. And so now when he goes back and looks through it, I'm sure he'll see a lot of things then, and he'll have learned from, you know, the all the players in the game, like all the things that we did and everything, you know, the moves that we did. And let's face it, this is a really tough game in the beginning. Like, I remember when I first played this game, it was against a couple of experienced players. It was against my teammate in this game, Rank Carcass, and his brother here in the war room. And they'd been playing the game for, I think, a year and a half, 2 years, and they played a number of games. Like, they played quite often. And, you know, like, I was a pretty decent Axis and Allies player, like nowhere near the elite players, but you know, I was good enough, right? Like, I was pretty decent. And man, like, you learn right away. It's not just the strategies that don't translate to this game, it's also even the tactics, you know, like how do you accomplish something? Not how do you plan a grand strategy, but just how do you go and take that out, that country over there, that territory, right? It's it's a whole different animal, right? And you know, like, just trying to amphibiously assault something is much more difficult, and requires much more planning and thought in order to accomplish that. You don't just throw a couple of units at a territory and hope for the best, right? Like, you can do that in Axis and Allies and get lucky, right? But in this game, I don't think there's nearly as much luck involved. It takes much more planning. And so War Heroes gave it a really good effort. Like he's a really nice guy too. I really enjoyed playing with him and talking with him and everything. And I had some conversations with him on the phone and everything. And I'm absolutely certain that he's been bitten by the bug for this game, and that he's going to get better because he had a sincere desire to play the game well. And it takes time though. Like you don't just pick this game up and and become, a great player on your first game or second game. It takes time, and every game you just get better and better. So anyway, I hope he enjoyed the game. I know it's not as much fun when you're losing, but hopefully he saw the value in that, and knows that next time he'll be a much better player. And I know Sky Marshall, he always enjoys playing. Win or lose, he doesn't really care. He just wants to play with little plastic army men, kind of like me, right? But yeah, he just enjoys the game. And anyway, let's just move the camera around first so you can look at something else for a while. So let's move it down here. Let's look at Turkey here for a bit. Speaking of Turkey, the Turkish player, who was also the Italian player, Hilltop Pillbox, he was one of my teammates, and the other one was Rank Carcass. He was playing the Japanese, and he's a good friend of mine. We talk quite often, and we've played a number of games together. Anyway, I really enjoyed being on a team with both of those guys. We worked well together. It's not just, like what you've seen on camera, right? You've seen the pieces go here and there and whatever. And, like you probably thought that it was me doing the Germans and it was RC doing the Japanese and Hilltop controlling the Mediterranean. It really wasn't like that at all. Like we talked every day, right? Sometimes for, who knows, like an hour, 2 hours a day, talking back and forth in our chat, our private chat. So, like before the German player would go, the other two guys would give their opinions, and there's lots of times that I changed my mind on buys or what I was going to do, just because I respected both of them and I listened to both of them. And between the three of us, like we came up with a sound strategy for Germany, and the same thing for Japan. And Italy is a little easier to come up with a strategy for, especially since they didn't go to war. But at the same time, like there was that's a tactic in itself, right? He had planned on going to war, but you see down here, this fleet here has moved into the Med, and so that changed his plans. Like if that fleet never moved and it didn't go anywhere, like if it went over to the Pacific, yeah, then Italy probably enters this game. But the thing is, we were ahead on points, so why take the chance of losing Italy's points only to lose the game, right? You might as well just keep them. So there's strategy in that as well, right? And we talked about that, all three of us. But anyway, I'm making this video because I thought that some of you might appreciate hearing the background of what we were thinking and what we were doing for our side. Like I can't really speak to the Allies or to the Comintern because I wasn't part of their conversations, right? But I do know what we were doing, and so I'll share a little bit of that with you, for those of you who might be interested in that. If you're not, then that's fine. Go watch another video right now. That's up to you. And also I'll talk a little bit about the expansions too. So let's go look at something else for a while. Okay. So anyway, we did have a strategy going in. Like we knew what our team was going to be at least a month before the game even started, right? And so, we talked a lot, and we knew what we were playing and who we were playing against and everything. And so basically we came up with a strategy that had two tenets to it. One of them was keep the Americans out of the war. So everything we did was something that does not give the Americans points. Like if you're wondering why the Japanese didn't go to the Money Islands and they went to China instead, because America gets a lot less money if you go to China, right? And like we expected him to take China out faster than that, RC. But you know what, this expansion set, this China War expansion set, it's kind of cool and everything, but it's not really all that fair to the Japanese, right? Like if you're trying to help out the Chinese, then yeah, play the China War expansion set, especially if they're not going to fight each other, right? They didn't fight each other whatsoever, and so it was just a united front against Japan, and it's a tough nut to crack. And I tell you, like I had a friend I was talking to yesterday on the phone, and he's going, man, that Japanese player's not doing so well, is he? And I say, you have no idea, dude. Like he played out of the three of us, he might have had the best game. Everybody was after him. Like they looked at Germany and thought, oh, Germany's too big, and Italy's not in the game, so everybody went after Japan because it was low hanging fruit, like as far as they were concerned, and they found out differently. Like he's still in China here, right? He's still got units in China. He's on his way to Novosibirsk, which is now the capital of Russia. He played an excellent game. He went for a Pearl Harbor attack, one that I have never seen before. Like I've seen the surprise strike before, but usually you see the Japanese, player move down to one of these ports down here or something, and then all of a sudden they strike, right? And you can almost see it coming. The Americans, they brace themselves and they buy a few things, but he did it from here. This is where his boats was in here and down in here, and he hit Pearl Harbor from there. So it was a perfect disguise, right? It looked like they were too far away, but they weren't. They weren't too far away. And he only lost one ship doing it. Like he got pretty lucky in the rolling on that one. But anyway, American fleet gone. Like the only thing the Americans have is just a couple of small boats, like submarine, a couple of submarines, and a transport. That's it, right? And so he played an amazing game. He just fought tooth and nail. Like he just would not give up ground. And like at first he tried to attack like you would normally do with Japan, right? But he just ran into a wall because of this Chinese expansion set, right? There was elite units in there, and they were defending at fives, and they weren't attacking each other, right? Plus you had more of a chance to lend lease to them. And so he had to run up against a couple of fighters, one from the Americans and one from the Russians, lend lease to the KMT, and also every turn they were getting these supply markers. So they would build militia, and then that supply marker would kick them up to an infantry, right? And so he just fought and fought and fought, and he realized, okay, you know what? I do a lot better on defense than I do on offense. So he kind of suckered them in, right? Kind of like a screenplay in football. He went back to the city here, piled up the city. The Chinese came at him, the KMT, and they were just losing units left, right, and center, right? Like they were getting beat on their attacks, much more so. Like they were losing more than they gained. And not only like were they dying more, but they were also retreating, right? And so he did that and did that and did that till the Chinese got tired of banging their head against the wall, and so they retreated back to Yunnan, and then he took over again, right, and started pushing them back. And then the Russians decided to attack Manchuria, and so he had to transition out of there. But anyway, that was the plan, was to keep America out of the war. This only gives America $5 attacking China, right? And the only other money that we gave the Americans was when Germany declared war on France. That gave them $5 as well. Rank Carcass did not build any capital ships. He didn't lay any capital ships down on the card, the build queue. We just didn't do anything that would get the Americans closer to war, and that almost backfired on us because Sky Marshal, when he got to the point where he could start rolling dice, 4 dice, and he had 39 IPP. He went up, and so we built a strategy on that, and then he's just going to keep rolling 10s and 11s. This isn't fair. But anyway, then he rolled a small number, And so, you know, like that gave us a bit of a reprieve, because on that fifth dice he could have gone to war, and it was on the after the fifth dice that Rank Carcass Pearl Harbored him. So, you know, like that took him down. Anyway, so that was that. And then the other tenet of our strategy, the second part, was no diplomacy, none. We were not going to make any promises that we weren't going to keep. We were the Axis, and we decided we're going to bully our opponents that here on the board. That's what we did. You know, like there's an opportunity, for instance, that you could sell artillery or anti-aircraft guns to the KMT from the Germans, and the Germans would get some money out of that, and they just said, nope, not going to do it. The Comintern and the Allies figured out real early in the game that we were not into making any deals whatsoever. You know, like, don't attack me here and I won't attack you there. Nope, not going to do it. We just said, nope, we're coming after you. And that's what we did. We played a good, clean game. Like, we didn't make any promises. Oh, we're going to, you know, we'll help you out here and do that. No, we didn't do that. We just said to them straight out, you know what, we're the Axis, and we're going to try to win this game, and we're going to do it honestly. And we went after them, and that worked. Like it worked. Like you see, it's January of 43, and the game is over already. Anyway, so that is a bit on what happened with Japan there. Like, he fought tooth and nail down there, and he is coming up this way, right? This is the main part of the Russian army now. Like, literally, that's it. A tank and 3 planes. That's the biggest part of the Russian army. He does have 4 militia here and 2 militia here, but they're going to be gone on the next turn. You see Moscow here. I could barely fit everything in there, and everything is chipped. I took them out in 1 round. I still have infantry left. I still have 4 infantry left. I was only losing infantry going in there, but that showed the difference in experience level between him and I, and that was really the case throughout the Russian battle here on the Eastern Front. I could see a bit of Axis and Allies tactics creeping into his game. I can tell he's played Axis and Allies before, but also just kind of, you know, hoping that this works kind of thing, and doing that attack, right? The declaration of war he did on me, like he declared war on me, that wasn't too bad. It was a bit early. I thought like he probably should have waited 1 more turn. I wasn't going to declare war on him the turn that he did. But the big mistake that he made, or the initial big mistake that he made, was also declaring war on Japan on the very same turn. And, you know, like, you're declaring war on the 2 bullies in the game when you're only at 32 IBP. That's probably not going to work out for you, and it didn't, obviously. Like, you see Moscow there, and all these units here, they were on their way south. I'll show you in a bit here where they were going. Let's start from the beginning though with Germany, and I'll tell you what I was doing there. So we knew ahead of time, because we were working with the designer of the Latin America war set and the colonial infantry set. We were working with him on finalizing and clarifying rules and of those 2 sets, and so we knew that the French player was probably going to use this Moroccan Gormiers guy. And so what happens is, whatever territory he's in, you get to keep that territory. So if you put other units in there, then they're going to be Free French as well. And, you know, like, I thought, hey, that's a great idea, right, that you can do that. But I think that he miscalculated how that would work out for him, because what he did was he ended up putting 13 units in there. So he put them in here, let me just set this down. Okay, so he put them here in northern Algeria, right? And then he put 12, like, he put 13 units in there, including both of his planes, right? And it just didn't work out at all, because it made Europe too weak. Like, when I went to attack Paris, I only lost a couple of units, I think 3 or 4 units taking Alsace-Lorraine. I didn't lose a single unit on my way into Paris. Like when I took Paris, I didn't lose a single unit, not one infantry, nothing. And like it was just too easy to take Europe because of that. So if it was up to me, like after watching this, and I don't think I would have played it like that, but after watching this, I've played France before, and I know how frustrating it is, right? Like all of a sudden you lose your capital, you lose your money, and then like you don't know if you're going to have any units, right? And so okay, you got a unit, you pick a capital, maybe you've got one thing on there, right? But you got to be careful because you don't want to leave a lot of things out there because the Vichy could get them, right? So it's just a crapshoot, eh? And this kind of guarantees you that you're going to have some stuff. So if you're ever playing this, try. What I would suggest trying is just put 5 units in. The Moroccan Gormiers and 4 other guys, right? 5 decent units, like have yourself a plane at least, and of course there's the other colonial infantry and stuff like that are available down in Africa. Because the thing is, like, sure, okay, you make France a beast, but why, right? Because think about it. No matter what happens, it doesn't matter if you put 13 guys in there or 20 guys in there. France loses their income. They've got zero income. They've got no factory. They're probably not going to have very many boats, although he did roll for more boats than the Free French got. But you're probably not going to get a big navy, and then what are you going to do with it, right? Like your income is going to be somewhere between 3 and say 6 to begin with. That's it. Like you're never going to be a power in this game as France. So play them for what they are, right? Put 5 guys in there or something like that. I don't know. Maybe you want 3, maybe you want 8. I don't know. But 13 was way too much because it took the units out of Europe, and it was just a cakewalk for Germany, right? But when you see what they've accomplished, that's it. You're looking at it right there. They took this on the first turn, these territories right here, on the very first turn, and they never left because they couldn't. They had no boats. Like they had a transport, and they took 2 guys out of there. Those 2 guys are over in Egypt right now. That's as far as they got, and that was it. They sat there. Like it's been my experience in this game that the Free French are stronger than the Vichy usually, right? It's very rarely that you'll see the Vichy stronger at the end of the game than the Free French, right? And so quite often, this is probably the best place is here in the colonies in France, is that Algeria, Tunisia region. So Free France is probably going to own that by the end of the game. Well, congratulations, you put 13 units there and you accomplished what you could have done by not putting any units there whatsoever, right? And so, but we kind of thought that, right? The Axis players, we talked about it. Like I said, we had probably at least a month before, and we said if he does that, okay, but that's not going to work out for him, and obviously it didn't. Here, let me show you here. Let's come back and take a look here. So, looking at France here. So I did the Swiss cheese thing. I went to Switzerland, which gave him a roll for his income, brought him up to maximum income, and then I went in and took the money from him. It worked out just perfectly. And so I took the maximum amount of money that I could take off him. Plus, he never got to spend that money, right? Like he was spending at, I think, 11, and then he went up to 18, and then I stole it from him, right? And so that worked out just the way I drew it up in that Swiss cheese gambit video. It worked just right. But the other thing that happened was, like I said, I didn't lose anything. You see these 4 artillery here? Those 4 artillery took Paris. I've had them the whole game. I think I've lost 1 since then. That's it. I had 5 here. So I was able to take 8 or 9 guys out of Aquitaine. Last turn or the turn before, I took 8 guys out of, I think it was 8 guys out of Normandy. Like those artillery, that's what happened. Like they didn't die, right? And the other thing was, I was really patient. One of the things I found playing the game, this is my first YouTube war, was that you had days and sometimes a week to plan your turn, right? Now, if we were standing around a table, I probably wouldn't have been as patient as, okay, it's my turn, okay, I got to do something, right? But here, I mean, you had days and days to redo your buy and rethink about what you were thinking about, and and so what happened with that was I became really patient. I remember having a conversation with Morton one time, and he said you should only attack with overwhelming odds. Just wait until you have overwhelming odds. And so I did that. I did that the whole game. I had like I could have taken Paris one turn sooner. I didn't. I waited, and I took it with overwhelming odds. I could have taken Yugoslavia and Belgium at the same time as I took out Paris. I didn't. I waited, and I took them the turn after with overwhelming odds. And what happens when you do that is that you don't lose as many units, because the combat that you get into, the rounds, like you're doing it in 1 round or 2 rounds instead of 2 rounds or 3 rounds or 4 rounds, right? Because you went with more units. And so that's what happens. And so I did that the whole way. So I took out all of Europe. Like 2 turns after Paris fell, I had everything but Bulgaria down here. And that, of course, is just an annexation, right? But I took Romania first, and then the following turn, as soon as I could, I put another factory down. And I had really good luck with my rolling for technology. So I got improved factories. Like that was the #1 thing on my list, was improved factories. And this is why. I wanted the whole game, before the game even started, I thought, I'm putting 2 factories here, and I'm going to try like hell to get improved factories. So boom, as soon as I could, I was putting 4 units down on Romania. Plus I was able to shift a lot of tanks and stuff out from France, right? Like I didn't even use all of my units in France. I didn't need to. There was, like, it was shocking how little there was there for me to attack, right? And so, okay, you know, I just turned around and went the other way, right? I took out Yugoslavia and Belgium, and then everybody, you know, like student body, Russia. And they came to here, and with War Heroes being an inexperienced player, like it's all these German units showed up on his doorstep all of a sudden, and he kind of panicked, right? He just, oh, okay, I'm declaring war on you, you know, like he again, showing his inexperience, right? It just, like, it was kind of shocking how they just showed up like that, like 4 units, 4 units, 4 units, plus railing 4 units, 4 units, 4 units. And this is where it helped, you know, with Rank Carcass and with Hilltop Pillbox. You know, like I wanted to just build tanks and get over there real quick, and Ranks, you know, nope, buy infantry, just buy infantry. So I just bought infantry, moved them to the front as I was putting tanks down now, and then the tanks were catching up. And so when he declared war on me, I could have taken Kiev, but again, patience, right? Like it was, you know, somewhere close to a 50-50 attack. And so I thought, you know what? I'm going to try this again. I'm going to try this patience thing. I'm going to ride it, right? And so I waited 1 more turn. I took Kiev easily because I had way more units than I needed to take it. And that was the key. And so when that happened, well, then, like, you know, sometimes you take it and then the guy takes it back and then you take it. That didn't happen. When I took it, I had it. Like, Kiev was not even close to falling back into Russian hands after I took it out. And, like, Russia caved in really quite quickly. And I was in Moscow pretty quickly. And again, I could have taken Moscow 2 turns earlier. I could have taken Moscow 1 turn earlier. I waited. And then I went in there with really overwhelming odds. And one of the reasons is because I didn't want to get this with only like 1 or 2 tanks left, right? I wanted some units left over. So when you look and you know, like, and you see what's here, you know, and the Air Force, like that stuff is going to be used now. Like it's going to go down to the Middle East, and then, you know, it's going to split off into India and over into Cairo over there in Egypt, right? And, you know, with the Turks here, the Turks just took a factory. So they've got 2 factories now, and they can build 2 units, plus the Germans, plus the Italians were giving them a unit each turn. You know, 4 units for them, and they've already got 4 planes. Like it was just, in 2 or 3 turns, like we would have been on the doorstep with huge numbers, right? And because these guys are, a lot of them are fast movers, right? And they're just going to scoot right down there unopposed. There was nothing the Russians could do to come back. Like here, I was going to, I can go straight through here to Stalingrad, and I can go here and blitz into here, right? I got um, 9 medium tanks and a Panzer Grenadier and an advanced mech and 3 mechs. Like it was, I'd take one or two infantry here, just so I didn't lose any big ones. But I would have taken all his money up here, and I would have left a few units up here, just in case the Allies decided to make a landing up here. And that was the other thing that we did, was I took out the ports up here, and Rank Carcass took out the ports, like he took out Primorsky Krai, and so they couldn't lend lease to him anymore. They had 1 or 2 turns of lend leasing. One was a serious lend lease, and the other one was, not so much, but. One of the ways we were able to choke Russia out really quickly was we cut off their lend lease as quickly as possible. Like I went from Leningrad straight up here as quickly as I could to take out that lend lease path. And another mistake that he made was that, when he was able to go to war, he didn't take the time to take out the neutrals, right? Like we had signed the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. He didn't take out Karjala in Finland. And so I had 5 infantry there. It was really easy just to walk into Leningrad. Like I thought I was going to have to build 3 transports and a battleship, and and when I saw that they were there, I just thought, well, I guess I can go now. He's declared war on me. I might as well go now before he puts anything there. And so the other thing was, the entire game, he did not have a single plane over here. You see where these German pies are in this area here. The first turn, I believe it was the very first turn, he flew his Air Force over to Siberia, and I never saw them again. Like they fought Rank Carcass. I felt bad for him. He had to fight everything over there. But anyway, and I was buying a plane every turn. And Hilltop Pillbox, he was lend leasing to me as soon as I went to war. He lend leased for 2 or 3 turns in a row. First turn, he gave me a plane. And see, that gave me the jump, right? I was able to go quickly because I had a large Air Force. Like right now, I've got 6 fighters, 2 tactical bombers, a medium bomber. I've got 2 heavy strategic bombers, and then the transport plane, who did an awful lot of lifting in this game. He did an awful lot of taking things out. But anyway, just the speed with which I was able to get across because of the lack of opposition in Europe, and just buying the right technologies and rolling for them right away, and the inexperience of the Russian player. I mean, that was a big factor in it, right? And so Germany was just a beast. And like the defense that I was able to set up over here, like I thought about my defense ever since Paris fell, right? I did not give up on my defense. I always had guys in Paris. Like I kept them there. Most of them, I took off with a few of the fast movers, but for the most part, I left a whole bunch of units in Paris. And of course, early in the game, these guys don't have much in Britain, so they could have made a landing, but they would have been taken out like they were in the last couple of turns when they kept trying. But I always had units on the coast, and I always had units in behind to take back the coast. With being able to take Leningrad so quickly, I was able to do a transport shock right up here. And so I was able to put 4 units on Western Germany every single turn. And then, okay, he didn't attack me, good. So those 4 units went to Leningrad, 4 more units went down. And then they went to Leningrad, 4 more units went down. So there was always the defense, but there was always the guys in behind them as well, right? So I was at no point in the game was I ever exposed on the Western Front. And those guys went right up to 2 spaces from Moscow every single turn, like 2 spaces from Moscow, from the Western Front, like from next door to Belgium to right here, every single turn. And I even thought about buying another transport, but I thought, you know what, why? Slow down, be calm, be patient, and it's all working out. Don't worry about it. So then what else? Subs. That was a big part of this game. Here, let me go down to the other side of the board there. So another one of the mistakes that the Allies made that we were able to capitalize on was that they took all of the British ships out of the Indian Ocean and the Pacific Ocean, like right from the beginning of the game. And they took them all over to the Atlantic or down to Aden here, which is out of the way. Like, I mean, everything was either here or this way and up. And like, it's tough to hunt down subs, right? And we were playing the Canada at War expansion set. And one of the new rules in there is, I think it's overpowered and it needs to be changed, was that I got to buy, like, first of all, I got 2 free subs. I was buying subs to begin with anyway. And then I was able to buy subs, two per turn for $1 less. Plus I had improved construction, right? So I was buying 2 subs every turn for 8 IPP. Like every turn, that was the first thing. Okay, I put down my Blue Division, and then I put down my 2 subs. Blue Division, 2 subs. Blue Division, 2 subs. And I was able to lead him around. Like there was one sub over in the Money Islands there. He finally basically committed suicide. He went at a destroyer, but he never missed convoying anything. But they bought so many destroyers, the British and the Americans lend-leasing to the British, that, you know, the game is played on the land here. That's where the money is. That's where the points are. And you know, I was happy to just keep throwing down subs and have them chase me around. One of the things that I do when I play Great Britain is I buy 3 seaplanes. Like, I have them on the board by the time the war begins, right? Like, not first turn, but probably 3 turns in, I start buying seaplanes. And then, you know, like, you can close that gap up here, right? So once you close this gap up here, then the subs have got to make it through there. So you've got boats here with a plane in them, and then you've got this gap covered. Well, then you've effectively choked off the sub game, right? The convoying game, and then you just have to chase down the subs that got through there before that, right? But he didn't figure that out until, I don't know, like a while into the game. Once he bought 3 seaplanes, I stopped convoying. I think I convoyed in the Mediterranean once or twice after that, and that was it. Like, seaplanes aren't the greatest thing in the game, right? But the one, like, every unit in this game has a purpose, and that's the purpose of those seaplanes, is to hunt down subs, right? You pair them with destroyers. So, like, no, they're not as good as a medium bomber. You know, a medium bomber rolls at 7, but that rolls at 3. But you can pair it with a destroyer at 4, right? That's better than having subs run around that you can't catch. You know, but the seaplanes can go 2 spaces. So you put 1 in Gibraltar, you put 1 in South Africa, you put 1 up north, or even 2 up north. Like, you start with 3, and then you add another one and maybe another one, and then you're good for the rest of the game. They're pretty cheap, right? Like, they only cost $1 more than a tank, and you basically end the sub game right then and there, right? And then you've got your little escort carriers like he had, and there you go. But, like, I was escorting, I was convoying a little bit. Mostly what I was doing, because he was chasing me around like that, mostly what I was doing was trying to isolate his boats, right? Oh, okay, there's 1 destroyer, so I'd go after that with 2 or 3 subs. Or, you know, there was one at one time there was 4 boats in here, including an escort carrier. I was able to take that thing out with submarines, and that was a pretty big moment, right? When subs can do that, when they can take that out. Like, all you need is that one hit where you're taking the carrier out, and you can't land that plane, right? There's no place to land a plane. And so I was looking for that the whole time. I was looking for carriers out in the ocean where he couldn't land, right? And so you have to protect those if you're the British player, right? And it's a tough game to play. Like, it takes a long time. I like, the first game I ever played of this, I did not do any convoying or escorting or anything. Like, it just seemed like too much for me, right? And then I did a little bit of it the second time, a little bit more. Now I'm comfortable with it. Now I know all the rules, and now I know how it works and everything. And it's a really fascinating part of the game. But it's a game in itself, boy. Like, it's a complex game in itself. And you know, I don't criticize anybody for not being able to master it because it is a tough thing to do. But I'm sure that they learned something in this game, because all of those destroyers, the money that they spent on those destroyers didn't translate to any points. Like, and that, to us, we've played the game enough times that we knew, okay, how is spending this money going to get me points, right? Like, not necessarily this $3, but in general, how is my money being spent going to get me to my points, right? And usually it has something to do with owning the land or owning the skies. I own the skies over Europe, and I own the skies over Russia, and that was the biggest key to victory, I think. Actually, I said that I had 6 fighters. I had 7. I did see that one in Paris, or yeah, in Paris. But you see all the planes there, right? Like that, I made that a priority. I bought a plane just about every turn, and that made the difference. Another thing that we took advantage of in this game was the Latin America war expansion. It's a pretty cool expansion and everything. The problem is there's 0 points available in Latin America, in South America, right? And so our goal in this was like, funny, but one of the things that happened right away was, on the very first time that you roll for the random event, it was a war between Brazil and Argentina, and it's America against the Germans, right? And so you lend-lease stuff in there. So what we did, I think all 3 of us lend-leased something at one point or another. I think we spent $11 in total here in Argentina, and he must have spent, man, like 60, 70, $80, either in Brazil or in somewhere else in South America. I spent another $4 up here in the War of 41. That's all I spent down there. But what we would do is, okay, we're running low over here, so let's just throw down another militia, or let's throw down an infantry. So we do that, and then he would add something, but more, you know what I mean? We'd add something small, he'd add something bigger, something small, something bigger. Nothing, he'd add, then we'd add something. And we just kept doing that and making him spend his money, right? Like, that's why you see America has almost nothing on it. And they did not have enough boats to hold back the Japanese. Like, their navy just got worked over here, right? There's nothing on the coast over there. That's because he spent all his money in places like South America, right? And in Lend-Lease. And there's room to do that. There's room to do all that stuff. But if you spend too much money on it, and you don't spend any money on America, you don't move any boats along, you don't buy any Marines. Like when he went to war, to this minute right now, he has not bought a single Marine in this game, the Americans. And so, you're not going to get your points, and you're not going to take away points. Like what they needed to do, Germany, if we were counting points, and you don't really count points when somebody surrenders, but Germany would have 10 points right now. They've got their maximum 7 points, plus they have Moscow, Berlin, and Paris, right? And the next thing they were going for, because they didn't have to put a single dime in Russia anymore, they were going to go for Britain. That was the next on their list, right? So they were going to go for Britain, and all those units there were going to come down to the Middle East and go left or right from there, right? But yeah, like huge bombing campaign, and then buy a couple more transports, and they I don't know if we would have gotten on there or not, because the Americans were there, but like I said, America didn't have anything, so they might have been able to take London out as well. But that's why they needed Marines. That's that's why they needed ground units. That's why they needed transports. That's why they needed everything, because when they finally went to war, they had nothing to go with, right? Or not enough. Like, all they had was the stuff in their starting setup, and that wasn't enough. Like if the game was over the Mediterranean here, yeah, they're doing awesome here in the Mediterranean. But remember though, there's hardly any points down in Africa. What is there, 1 or 2 points? I think there's a point for the Suez or something. There just isn't the points down there, right? And you got to kind of target where you're spending your money. What other expansions did we play? I mentioned Canada there. Um, in South America. I liked the colonial expansion, like I talked about that one unit, but I kind of liked it in that, like it was a way to get more units in weird places, right? Like there's lots of units being built down in Africa. And if the Italians had gone to war, then there would have been kind of a nice little war going on down here. But, it just wasn't in the cards, right? It was better not to in this game because when you're leading, then you don't really need to take chances, right? If we were behind, then okay, yeah, we need you to do something, Italy. You know what I mean? But Italy didn't need to do anything because we were winning. Why would you change that, right? Like that would take a chance at losing Italy's 5 points that they would have counted if the game had gone to points at this juncture right here, right? Because they had Rome and they had 4 other points there, so. Anyway, another thing that was really curious too was the Philippines. Like these guys are on the Philippines here. I've never seen anybody stack up the Philippines like that. Like it seemed really excessive, and nobody's going to assault it. He was pretty proud of that. But you know what? If you put half that much stuff there, even a third of that stuff there, nobody was going to assault it. 5 coastal guns, like that's. Think of the money you could have spent that money somewhere else. You could have bought Marines or boats or something, right? Lend lease, like the all the lend lease that they didn't lend lease French any boats, so France was stuck there in Algeria the whole game. They couldn't leave. They couldn't go anywhere because they had no boats, right? And Italy wasn't in the war, so they couldn't leave. They were blocking them. Anyway, that's what we were thinking, right? And again, like I owe my success in this game to my teammates. Like they were just great. I had such a good time with them on we call it the Axis chat, and it's a chat on WhatsApp, and we talk there all the time, and we came up with strategies, and we didn't argue about anything. We just threw out ideas, and everybody, what, I like that. I thought my idea was good, but what, that could work. And next thing you know, you were doing something else, right? For the most part, like Rank was playing the Japanese, and I was playing the Germans, and Hilltop was playing the Italians. But we all had a say in what we were doing, and we didn't do anything that wasn't coordinated, right? There wasn't a surprise, like, what did you do that for? No, I'm screwed, you know what I mean? None of that happened. And like, I wanted to lend lease twice to the Japanese because I had more than enough money, right? The last turn, it's kind of funny, but we had spent like 10-15 minutes mapping out a route. I was going to send them $15 last night, and these boats were right here, right? And you have to take the shortest route. And the shortest route happened to go through this C zone here. Didn't matter what happened before, didn't matter what route you took, you still had to go through this C zone. And I don't think he knew that, Sky Marshal, but he just happened to put his subs here and he convoyed this line right here. Like if he'd have gone down here, I think we could have done it, right? But I was going to send him 15 IPP. Like I would have sent him money, but we just couldn't get it through. And we didn't say anything about it because we didn't want to tip our hand that maybe Germany might at some point send some money to the Japanese, right? So we just, there was a couple times we tried it, and okay, they moved a unit there. Darn, okay, we'll wait. Because, like you can try to go through subs, but, why would you send $15 just to have the guy roll the dice and you just lost $15? Like, why don't you just go buy 5 dudes instead, right? To take the safe play. And, that's what we did, right? But yeah, those guys just played an awesome game, and they were a lot of fun to talk to. We had a lot of laughs and everything. And yeah, I'd play on their team any day, both those guys. So thanks to them for making this an enjoyable experience for me. And I think I kind of talked this to death. I think I went through all the expansion sets and what our plan was and what it was going to be. But I don't know if you found this interesting or not, but that was the thinking. For me, the thinking was patience and overwhelming odds. And for us, it was keep the Americans out of the war and don't take any deals. Don't make any deals with anybody. Just go ahead and go about your business. We don't need your help, and we're not giving you ours. Anyway, that seemed to work out for us. So that's it. That's it, everyone. Hope you enjoyed Operation Crimson Tide. And someday I'll probably play another YouTube game. It won't be now though, because we've got the summer offensive coming up, and I think we're using my table. So we're going to need all these pieces, and I don't want to get into another game and find out that we're not going to finish in time, right? So anyway, plus I got to get the 14. The 14 map should be here in the next couple of weeks, and I got to get that on my table, and we got to finish that game off and get it out to you. So that's it. Signing off for the last time. He didn't show you the technologies and stuff. You know what? Just look in my video last night. You'll see them. I ended up with 80 IPP in territories. I thought it was 81 last night, but it was actually 80. I forgot that I lost Ecuador, so that's an easy one to forget. Anyway, thanks for joining us again. So take care, everyone. General Hand Grenade out.